I can personally attest to noticing a communication barrier and or a communication decline as I interact with people who are heterosexual, and they can be male or female. I identify as a lesbian, and just to explain why I am discussing an obvious communication barrier or a communication decline between myself and heterosexual people is because this is a very prevalent occurrence that happens with lesbian people and heterosexual people. I am speaking from personal experience, but also just learning and being knowledgeable about other lesbian women who experience similar or the exact same experiences when communicating with people who are heterosexual. And to explain to you what I mean is, when people who have different sexual orientations interact with one another, the people involved in the conversation may not be aware of the person's sexual orientation. And this could be minimum two people, meaning one person is heterosexual, the other person is homosexual. It could be two or more people in a group discussion or conversation. And you may not know these people, or you may know them. But I noticed a couple of things occur when a same-sex attracted person, or what we describe as a homosexual person, and a heterosexual person who is a person who is attracted to the opposite sex interact with one another. One thing that I've noticed, which I believe is a main contributor to a breakdown in the communication or a communication decline between a homosexual person and a heterosexual person, is it is already assumed that everybody that is in this conversation is heterosexual. So by default, people already are thinking that everyone in this conversation is heterosexual, which is not true. And then secondly, if a person has not had any interaction, or they've had limited interaction with people who are of a different sexual orientation from being heterosexual, then this definitely contributes to a communication breakdown. And I will basically explain why this is a topic that I believe needs to be addressed and discussed, is because communication is very important. And when there is a lack of communication, or there is a communication decline or a miscommunication, then people may believe that everybody is on the same page, meaning everybody has the same understanding, or that everybody is in agreement. But in reality, they are not. And I've titled my video, Lesbians Think Like Lesbians. My name is Giselle Wallace, lesbian life coach and author. I do provide my lesbian perspective here on my YouTube channel, and I discuss content that is for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and LGBTQ plus people to relate to, learn from, and to build community. If this interests you, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. So I titled this video, Lesbians Think Like Lesbians, because for one, when you identify as a lesbian, you are always a lesbian. And we do think differently from heterosexual people, whether it is a heterosexual male or a heterosexual female. And as I mentioned, it's already assumed by default that everybody who is in a discussion with each other is heterosexual. And this mindset usually comes from the external participant in the conversation who identifies as heterosexual. And they think that way by default because they are heterosexual and because we live in a heteronormative society. And they are not conscious or aware that other people that they interact with are not always heterosexual. There are various sexual orientations on a spectrum. I identify as a lesbian, and I am providing my perspective as a lesbian in the experiences that I have had with heterosexual people while in a discussion. And I've also learned and observed from other women who identify as lesbian, and they experience very similar or exact same situations when they are communicating with someone who has a different sexual orientation from them, primarily a heterosexual person. And I believe a huge major factor in the communication decline between same-sex attracted people or homosexual people and heterosexual people, which are people who are attracted to the opposite sex, is that homosexual people or same-sex attracted people, you can be lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, or however you identify. If you are a same-sex attracted person, we usually experience an environment that does not allow same-sex attracted people to communicate freely and openly from their perspective. Meaning, if you are a same-sex attracted person, you are not usually in a position where you can speak from a perspective of a person who is same-sex attracted. And the reason being is because as a lesbian woman and as people who identify as same-sex attracted have disclosed to me that when they are interacting with people, they are very aware and conscious that the people that they're interacting with, majority of the time, are heterosexual. And so we basically understand that heterosexual people, the way they think and the way they conduct themselves and the way they desire their interactions to occur is from a heterosexual standpoint. And in many cases, they can be very biased about considering other people's perspectives in life, especially when the person who they are interacting with has a different sexual orientation from theirs. So if you are a lesbian, gay, bisexual, or LGBTQ plus person, if a heterosexual person does not know that you are a part of the LGBTQ community, they will speak to you as if you are a heterosexual. And here's where things get really strange. You can actually let the person know who is heterosexual that you are not heterosexual. So for example, you can say, oh, well, I'm a lesbian, Or you can say, oh, well, I'm gay, or I'm bisexual, or I'm asexual, or I'm pansexual. And you can communicate this to the person who you're speaking to, who is heterosexual, and they will often look puzzled, or they'll question you as if they do not believe what you are saying about yourself. And in some cases, they will completely ignore that you mentioned that you are a same-sex attracted person. And the conversation will be abruptly changed. The direction of the conversation changes. And the direction of the conversation changes depending on the context of what the conversation was. So, for example, as a lesbian, I have experienced where a heterosexual man does not know that I am a lesbian, but he has expressed attraction, like physical attraction. He's basically expressed that he is physically attracted to me and that he wants to get to know me better on a romantic level. And depending on the timing and depending on how well I know this person or not, determines whether or not I want to reveal to this person if I am a lesbian. For example, if I don't know this man and just in passing, he randomly comes up to me and says, hey, I think you're very pretty. Can I have your number? I may say something like, well, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. But I am already in a relationship. I could say that, or I could just say, oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me know that you're interested, but I'm single right now. I'm not looking to be in a relationship. And in those situations, he does not know that I'm a lesbian. But many men can be very aggressive and they can be assertive in interacting with women. And I have discussed on my YouTube channel how I don't always reveal that I'm a lesbian because I am very aware of my surroundings. And I'm also very aware that we live in a heteronormative society and not everybody is mature enough or respectful about people who have different sexual orientations. And it can create a lot of conflict. It can also prevent you from being able to be open and honest with other people, even though you have no issue with who you are. You're very confident and at peace with yourself. You're not ashamed of yourself. It's just that there are people that you can actually pick up the energy that it will not be safe or it may not be in your best interest to reveal to this person that you are a lesbian or that you're gay or that you're bisexual. And it's all right to protect yourself because that is what you need to do. But if you are in a situation where you feel like, all right, I want to just let this person know I'm a lesbian. And if you do let a man know that you're a lesbian after he has expressed his physical attraction for you, or maybe you know him and he lets you know he wants to get to know you and date you because he really likes you, either or, whether you know the guy or not, once you reveal to this man that you are a lesbian, that is when the trajectory of the conversation changes. And in many cases, the man tries to pursue the lesbian woman even more. And you've made it very clear to him that you identify as a lesbian. And this is a reason why I don't always reveal that I am a lesbian. And here's where the communication breakdown happens. I have heard men actually say that I don't know why gay people act like they're ashamed of being gay. And I asked, this one particular guy, why do you think that gay people are ashamed of being gay? And he would say that he's been in situations where he didn't know a person was gay. And when he asked, for example, a man, are you gay? He said usually the man would look away or he would act nervous. And he assumed that the man was ashamed of being gay. And I explained to him that does not mean that he's ashamed of being gay. He just may not be comfortable enough to disclose to you that he is gay. And everybody does not feel like it's necessary for you to know that they're gay. And you have to consider the fact that you are asking him about his sexual orientation. And that's a very private, personal question. And he does not have to answer you. He does not have to tell you that he's gay. So I said, you're probably misinterpreting his reaction or his response as being ashamed of being gay, when really he is just not comfortable sharing that information with you. And then he explained, the heterosexual man explained, what about lesbians? Like when I ran into women, I didn't know that they were lesbians, and I asked them out. And when I asked them out, they would say no, or I have somebody. But then when I would still flirt with them or try to get with them, they would say I'm a lesbian. And he said they would say it almost like they didn't want to say it. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, they would just kind of blurt it out, or they would just seem irritated and just say, I'm a lesbian. So I don't understand why you're ashamed of that. Why would you be ashamed of you being a lesbian? And I explained to him, I think that you're misunderstanding how gay or lesbian people respond to interactions with you, because you are a heterosexual man. And so as a lesbian, if you as a man are interested in a woman, we understand that you're interested in women because you're heterosexual. But if a woman says no, if she says, I already have somebody, if she says, I'm single, I do not want to be with anyone, because that's how I usually respond to men, then you need to respect what she says and leave her alone. But you continue to pursue her. You still remain assertive and aggressive. And you said that you continue flirting with her after she lets you know that she is not interested. And I said, of course, her response will seem of agitation, or she may be annoyed. But that does not mean that she is ashamed of herself being a lesbian. Or it does not mean that she did not want to let you know that she is a lesbian, because it just depends. A lot of times lesbians do not feel like they need to let you know that they're lesbians, but it does not mean that they're ashamed of being lesbians. And depending on the timing and the context in her relationship with you, like if she knew you for a while as a friend, maybe she was not ready to let you know that she's a lesbian. But because you kept pursuing her, she finally let you know. Like, as a lesbian, if I feel comfortable enough to share with the man that I'm a lesbian, there's a lot of reasons that I consider before I make it known to a man that I'm a lesbian. So that's what I mean by the communication breakdown. And lesbians think like lesbians. We're going to think about our safety. We're going to think about who we're interacting with. We're going to think about why we're interacting with them. And we're always thinking as a lesbian. We're not thinking as heterosexual people. So heterosexual people on the outside, they're thinking like heterosexual people. And that is understood. You're going to think how you think according to your sexual orientation. But the issue and the communication breakdown is when you're interacting as a lesbian with someone who is heterosexual, and they do not accept you as a lesbian, or they don't believe you as a lesbian, or they misunderstand who you are as a lesbian, then everybody walks away without understanding each other. And when I'm interacting as a lesbian with a heterosexual woman, for example, a heterosexual woman may like me as a friend, and she feels comfortable around me, and I consider her as an acquaintance or a friend, just depending on where I basically stand with this heterosexual woman. And I may not have any type of romantic or sexual interest in this heterosexual woman, but she starts talking about men that she likes, because heterosexual women, they do that. They talk about guys that they like. Me being who I am, I will just listen, and I'll basically support her if she has questions or whatnot about relationships. Because for me, relationships are about a human experience. I don't have to be heterosexual to know that you are someone who has interest and attraction in the opposite sex. So a scenario would be this heterosexual woman is assuming that I am heterosexual, and she speaks to me like I'm a heterosexual woman. But she finds out that I am a lesbian. And then once she finds out that I'm a lesbian, then the relationship dynamic changes, because we were once cool. We had a great friendship or a decent association with each other. But once she learns that I'm a lesbian, then she distanced herself from me. And in some cases, she assumes that I am interested in her romantically and sexually. And in some cases, there are heterosexual women who become offended that they interacted with you and they talk to you about their love life with men, and they feel like the lesbian betrayed the heterosexual woman for not letting her know up front that she's a lesbian. But the truth is, the heterosexual woman assumed that she was friends with a heterosexual woman. And it's not true that the lesbian woman betrayed the heterosexual woman because she did not reveal her sexual orientation to her up front. So this is what I mean about the communication breakdown and how communication declines between lesbians or same-sex attracted people with heterosexual people. And lesbians think like lesbians. We're always going to be lesbians, no matter who we're interacting with, no matter who we're communicating with. The problem is people who are heterosexual think we should think like heterosexuals, but we don't. Lesbians think like lesbians. And I'm a very self-aware person. I like to listen. I like to communicate with people. I don't judge people. I don't limit my interactions with people because of their sexual orientation. But once I become aware that a person is biased in their relationships with people based upon their sexual orientation, then I do not make efforts to be in friendships or any type of association with heterosexual people who are not accepting and who refuse to understand and learn about people who are different from them, because these people are very closed-minded and it's really impossible to be friends with them. And they continue to try, a lot of heterosexual people continue to try to change you. They try to change you into being straight, heterosexual. But you cannot change me. You cannot change us, because lesbians think like lesbians. I hope this message resonates with you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Giselle Wallace. Have a rainbow day.